Hey, it's David. This video is going to be a comparison of an iBook G4 and a white plastic MacBook. Just to start out with the obvious, the MacBook is thinner. But it's actually not that much thinner. It looks a lot thinner, like when you see somebody carrying it or whatever, but you know, really, it's not really that much thinner. When you open them up, iBook, MacBook, you know, the iBook does look a little bit thicker. And from down here, I mean, the MacBook looks better because this is like a dark off-white plastic that then it does have a white plastic down here. This has a white the polycarbonate plastic down here and that off-color white up here, as opposed to it spilling over most of it. I think this looks better. And the keys are whiter than this. Now this is a white MacBook. You know, I'm going to turn another light on. Okay, that looks a little better. For the screen brightness, I think the MacBook might be a little bit brighter. Not totally sure. But, yeah. Now, one thing that I have noticed is the speaker the speaker loudness. These are the two speakers on the iBook. There and there are the speakers on the MacBook. When I figured this out, my friend, who actually is quite fond of PCs, go, well, what idiot puts speakers on the back of a computer? And I said, well, they really think you're going to have the screen tilted back like this, then the sound comes out of here and bounces off and goes right to you. So that actually is a pretty good idea, except that not everyone always has the screen tilted like that. So that's why MacBooks always seem so quiet. Obviously, widescreen, full screen, big difference there. And the speed, well, there's no comparison. The MacBook is just so much faster. I did a boot up, which I'll do that for my next video, is a boot comparison of a few more things. It's just no comparison. A MacBook will be so much faster than an iBook. And then, for comparison of heat, just how hot the machines get, in general, well, in my case, the MacBook gets hotter than the iBook. But the iBook also, it gets hot kind of from here over. MacBook is kind of like here. It's this one quadrant. Because here's the disk drive, here's the hard drive, here's the battery. The battery gets some heat, but really no higher than room temp. This over here does stay relatively cold all the time. This, same with over here, is always cold. Over here, always kind of hot. Especially, like, around here-ish. Apple's a big fan of the top left corner being hot. Now, for ventilation, I'm not really satisfied with either of them. Because the MacBook, tilt your screen back, you're kind of blocking off the fan, which is right here. Because it's meant to come out the back, so there's hot air coming out of here. The iBook, there's really no airflow. There's barely a fan that spins fast enough to blow any air out, and then the heatsink isn't that great. So, in general, the iBook won't get as hot just because the processor isn't as powerful. But if they're both being used for, let's say, the same task for an extended period of time, the iBook will get significantly hotter because it can't really ventilate. Here's where air comes in on the iBook. Now, hardly any air comes in, but nevertheless, some air. The MacBook, it's actually kind of hidden. Nobody really knows for sure, but I think I figured it out. It's right here, under the keys. There's a ton of airflow coming in mainly like here and here. There's just a ton of air coming in. You can really only feel it when there's when the fan's really spinning up to speed. So if you have a MacBook, play a game for a couple minutes, then put your hand right here, because it'll feel cold. And then there's also a little bit of air that comes in right there in the corner, because here's where the fan is, right where it says MacBook. So some air comes in over here, none really over here, because the disk drive's kind of blocking it. Trackpads, iBooks, taller, the button's a lot bigger, this is smaller. Wider, thinner button, smaller button, like vertically, larger trackpad. I like the MacBook trackpad because this is 2-finger sensitive. Now the last generation iBooks have 2-finger sensitive, but it's not that smooth. This isn't the like whatever generation of iBook. This one's too old. It doesn't have the 2-finger scrolling. And I think, something that a lot of people don't know is that there's a setting that when you put 2 fingers down and click, it's right click. So a lot of people don't know that, and it's a really helpful tip. Obviously, the camera. MacBook has the camera. Now, anytime that somebody gets a new Mac, it's just photo booth for days. You go to their house. They have friends over. It's just photo booth after photo booth after photo booth picture. It never will end. There's a girl in my class who just got a Mac. Well, I don't know. I think she's had a MacBook, but it's the first time she's ever actually used it. Just picture after picture on photo booth. The latch. This has this little hook that comes out, and it actually doesn't come down till right there. The MacBook has a magnetic latch. It just goes down on its own. Now it kind of smacks down, and then you just lift up. This, you push a button, then that. And then something to notice, if I set the camera down, is that it bounces. It doesn't just kind of come up. It doesn't just like do that. It really kind of bounces. One thing that I do like a lot better about the iBook, notice the sleep light. It's gone. And then once it goes into sleep, it comes back. The MacBook, here's the sleep light. You can still kind of see it. Now, I know Apple has just updated their MacBooks almost a month ago. Probably when you're watching this, it'll be over a month. But I know they've updated it to the aluminum kind, and the sleep light does now go away. But you know, they still sell the plastic ones, so you can still see this. And I really do like that they kind of hide this on the iBook. So this is kind of my review my comparison of a MacBook and an iBook G4.